begin by asking you, how was the deal for Rafale to India sealed in 2016? It was a government-to-government contract, everybody knows. But at what point of time in the negotiations did you come in as Dassault?
Good morning. Number one is I'm more than happy to welcome you here in East. And East is our flight test base, our flight test center. We are in front of Rafale, which is supposed to go to India and is now for flight testing. Here at Dassault, everyone is very proud, number one, to have designed such a superb aircraft. But it's not only that it is a superb aircraft, it's also that it's an aircraft which copes with the French requirement. First, it was designed for the French forces and is a total combat-proven aircraft. So we are at Dassault, the workers, the technicians, the employees, very proud to serve our country. Now we are also very proud that this aircraft is going to equip the Indian Air Force inventory. And we have been working for India for the last 60 years, so it's really an honor to be part of the defense of the country. Now to come back to your questions, as you know, we were in a big competition started in 2007 with the RFP MMRCA program, about 126 aircraft. We were designated to be L1, so meaning is the winner of the competition against many other competitors, and we were more than proud to be the L1 competitor in 2012. From 2012 up to 2016, we have been working to try to finalize the deal. For some reasons, which may be exposed to by government of India, this deal didn't go through, and the government of India, because of the urgency of the requirement, requested the government of France to be able to supply 36 Rafale, which the government of France accepted and told us in 2016.
But it was, you were told by French government, you did not shelve the deal. You didn't say the deal is useless, it's not happening. You continued to negotiate with India.
Yes, we have been negotiated with India for a long time, since 2012. And in 2016, we had some discussion again with Indian Air Force, with the government of India and with HL. So we were in the spirit of finalizing the deal of the 126. We saw and we observed that that was very slow at that time. But, you know, we were totally in line with what the government of India is requesting from us. And suddenly, when there was a visit of the Prime Minister, there was a deal between the two governments, government of France and government of India. And the government of France, through the Ministry of Defense, informed us about the decision of India to go ahead with 36 Rafale sold by the government of France.
So in March 25th, 2015, you, in the presence of President Hollande, said that the production has begun, and you said that the employees are happy, as you said, to be working on the deal, and that Dassault will be providing these aircrafts to Indian Air Force, aircraft to Indian Air Force. Now, what changed in those 17 days between you announcing that it's almost finalized and now suddenly a new deal? What happened in those few days?
As a supplier, we were pushing to try to get the deal because we were the winner in 2012. So we really wanted to get the deal, and the deal was for 126 aircraft. So we were still working on that deal with, as I said, HAL or Indian Air Force. It was slow, as I said also, and I believe that the government of India said that it's too long or too difficult, the 126, so go ahead with 36 supplied by government of France. This was exactly what happened in 2015.
So as a supplier, did you feel that HAL did not have the capacity to produce the leftover, not the flyaway condition, but
no, not at all. We have a long experience with HL. I worked myself with HL, and I have great respect for this company. What was difficult in that deal to be negotiated was two matters. One was a responsibility not only of the first aircraft, because it was a kind of license. So you got 18 aircraft fly away, meaning is produced here in France, and then step by step a license production through HL, because HL was the lead production agency. The question was at that time, and many discussions we had, is how many hours HL should take compared to the number of hours Dassault is taking in France. It was an issue. And the second issue was the responsibility. Should I be, as Dassault, responsible for 126 or only of the beginning of the production? Because at the end, for example, if you take the last aircraft, the 126th aircraft, totally manufactured by HL, HL should take the full responsibility in front of Indian Air Force. These were two issues which were difficult to resolve.
You didn't want to take responsibility of
for
the
126? No, only for the 18, then for the 108, the parts which were supposed to be produced here in France, and the responsibility of transferring the know-how, of training of the workers, of supplying the tools, the publication, the documentation. But then at the end, when you have a manpower which is totally in the hands of HL, and HL, as you know, is a state-owned government company, this was the responsibility of HL to produce and to deliver to Indian Air Force, not mine. This is what my feeling.
You've so, like you said, for 60 years you've been selling aircraft to India. It happened with Mirage. Now, when Mirage was transferred, so was there similar kind of problem?
No, Mirage was not transferred. When we sold the Mirage 2000 to India, beginning of the 80s, 1981, 82, and we had an option of selling a license, but the basic deal was only 36 aircraft or 40 aircraft, I don't remember. Fly away. And at the end, the option didn't go through. So Mirage was delivered fly-away condition. Then the maintenance and the overhaul of the Mirage were performed by HL, and we had a deal with HL to do so.
So, you know, there are media reports that indicate that the French government and French politics played a hand too. Like in India, the Indian opposition says that it was a quick decision taken without consulting the Cabinet Committee on Security, without Acquisitions Committee, and the Prime Minister, Indian Prime Minister, took a knee-jerk reaction. The same way, there are indications that that the French government too was unaware, and it was all of a sudden procedures were broken. Is that true? Was there some kind of French politics in this?
I don't comment about what happened or what's happening in the frame of a government. The government of India has its own procedures, and I'm sure, I'm convinced that they followed the procedures. And you have the French government, they have their own procedures, different from India, and I'm sure also that they followed their procedures.
The reason I'm asking this is because former President Hollande said that Dassault was not given an option. They had to pick the offset partners which the Indian government told them to. Whereas the Indian government says that nothing of that sort happened. So
it's totally untrue, and the former President Hollande made and performed a correction of what he said. He said clearly the two partners found themselves together. So it's not at all a decision of the French government or the government of India that Dassault selected Reliance. I have a good example. If I started discussions with the Reliance Group in 2011, in 2011 President was not Hollande in France, and Prime Minister was different from the existing Prime Minister of today at that time in 2011. And we settled an agreement in 2012.
But the Reliance of that time was also different.
Yes.
It was the other brother. So it was, I mean, the president was different. The only common factor is you.
No,
because
no,
the
because
Indian Prime Minister was different,
no.
the French President was different, Reliance was different.
Correct.
You're the only one who was common.
This is why I say I decided.
Right.
So I said we decided to go ahead with the group Reliance. Within the group Reliance, there are brothers, but they still have their mother. They are together the sons of the former lead of the company, Ambani. And it's a big group, so it was totally in line with the family group to go ahead with Reliance, with one or the other company.
When you selected Reliance as a defense partner, it said that Reliance directly has got 20,000 crores, or how much was the investment done into this company? What kind of investments have you done as a joint venture? What kind of money are you putting in for what you're going to be producing there?
When we created the GV last year, and the decision of creating a GV was part of our agreement again in 2012, but we waited for the contract to be signed. We are supposed to put in this company together Reliance and Dassault about 800 crores, so 50-50, because you know the shares in the GV is 49% for Dassault and 51% for Reliance. For the time being today, to start the work with the hangars, with the workers, to pay the employees, we have already put about 40 crores, but it will be increased up to 800, which means 0.5% for Dassault, 400 crores in the GV by Dassault in the 5 coming years.
So you've put in this kind of money, and you're promising to put this kind of money into an organization which has no track record of product and services for the aviation industry.
But we cannot say that, because we are not putting the money in Reliance. We are putting the money in the joint venture. In this joint venture, I put my know-how free of charge. I put my know-how on how to produce people. I have some engineers from Dassault and workers from Dassault who are taking the lead as far as the industrial part of this GV is concerned. While at the same time I have an Indian company like Reliance, which is putting money also in this GV because they want to support the development of their country. So it's the company is going to know about how to produce aircraft.
No, not development of the country. It's a private organization. Its profit is the motive, not development of the country.
Look,
right?
I don't think that you can say that, because you know, if you would have said that in America, Americans will not be what they are today. If you take Lockheed, it's a private company, and I'm sure that they have the US flag in front of their hangars. So it's good for their economy. And if you take the example of the US, when the industry is going well, when the companies are going well, private companies, it means the economy goes well.
Sure. The reason I said this is because the comparison is with HAL. Why wouldn't Dassault do it with HAL? Because, see, the opposition's claim is that the Indian Prime Minister keeps talking about make in India, make in India. But at the same time, when it came actually to bringing about this deal, it got Dassault to bring in offset partners, which is not HAL, but a friend of the Prime Minister. That's what the opposition's claim is, and not HAL. So all through, the accusation has been that the pressure on Dassault was to leave HAL, to abandon HAL and take a private company.
Not at all. You know, if we would have signed the 126, we would have worked with HAL and with Reliance, because at that time already we were in partnership with Reliance. So it's because the 126 didn't go through that we had the government of India has to reconfigure to urgent requirement to go to 36 from the government of France. So, and then I took the decision to continue with Reliance, and HAL, which I know well, they even said in the last few days that they were not interested to be part of offset. So it has been done by my decision and the decision of Reliance together to go ahead to invest in a new private company. It's good to be a private company and to be a small company also. Small company means you are going to develop know-how, you are going to develop new processors. India is one of the big countries in digital capacity. We will have a digital company. Nagpur is supposed to be a digital city, and it's a nice place. And I have a lot of land available there in order to develop the company. So this is the building of a new company. It's good for everyone.
So one more question is that Mr. Rahul Gandhi says that Eric Trappier in France and Narendra Modi in India have respectively broken the laws in their own country. You in France and Mr. Modi in India, and that you will get into trouble in your respective countries.
Do you think he's right? Because if I break the law in my country, I will have to face problems, which is not the case. I mean, I am totally clean in front of the laws of my country. I am French, I live in France, my company has more than 100 years, so we are totally clean in France. We are also totally clean as far as Dassault is concerned in India. So everyone is looking at Dassault for a long time. It has always been the case. So if we would have made something wrong, it would have been known. But I have to answer to this question to the officials of the country. The official of my country, I know them very well. The officials of India is the government of India with their own rules. So everyone from the official asking me question, I will answer to the question. I'm totally transparent.
How efficient is this jet going to be in the long run? How many years do you see the Rafale lasting?
Within the French forces, I will continue to deliver Rafale up to 2030. Then it will be operational at least 30 more years. So at least the Rafale will be in the inventory of the French forces up to 2060. Now we got some good results at the export market with some countries, including India, and we know that India keeps its own fighter for a longer time. So we will continue to support the Rafale up to the moment Indian Air Force needs it. Look at what's happening with the Jaguar. We have been able to support the Jaguar for a long time. Jaguar is not only a British aircraft, it was a French, Franco-British aircraft. And I work myself with the Jaguar to support through HL and Indian Air Force. Same with the Mirage. The Mirage will continue to be supported for a long time. So it's really a guarantee for India, because Dassault has been a long outstanding company for the last 100 years now, and will continue for at least 100 years.
So there was nobody from the Indian government who told you
no.
Pick Mr. Anil Ambani's group?
Not at all.
So if you were to, when you picked the Ambani group, it isn't just because it's a family-run company like Dassault. You have in an interview said that you picked it because they have land near the airport. What kind of due diligence did you do? What kind of checks did you do before you picked Reliance?
Yeah, we had many trips between Dassault team and the Reliance group. What we wanted in 2011, we wanted to be with an Indian group in order to settle facilities and to invest in India to produce parts of aircraft, parts of Dassault aircraft. And we started with Falcon, for example. And so it's my choice to say we have been working with the government of India for the last 60 years, but now I understand that we need also to be in India, and we need to be in India with partners, so with Indian partners. And obviously we could have gone to Tata, to other family groups, but you know, at that time the decision to go ahead was not given to Dassault. We were in 2011. Tata was also discussing with other companies, foreign companies. So we finally decided to go ahead with Reliance because they have experience in big engineering facilities, not in aeronautics, but aeronautics, I am the expert.
But was it because working any of your competitors? Is that why you chose it? And Tata has gone to the Americans or anybody else? Is that the reason?
Yes, I wanted to start from scratch, because when you want to decide to go ahead to manufacture in India, and not only me, later on maybe with supply chain with others, we need to start with the right standards, with the right people. So we are really designing this new company together, Reliance and Dassault. But there is a company at the end. DRAL is a company. It's a starting company, but the CEO of DRAL is someone who has a long experience in aeronautics. We are recruiting workers, and we are training workers.
The CEO is your work, the CEO.
The CEO is an Indian engineer.
Indian engineer.
I am the chairman.
You're the chairman.
The
of
chairman
DRAL.
of the yes, because I am the representative of the shareholder of Dassault, and Reliance also. They have their in the board the representative of Reliance, but the operating officer working to lead the company is someone, an employee of the company who is leading the company. The CEO, Chief Executive Officer of the company, is Indian and has a long experience in aeronautics.
See, the main opposition party in India, the Congress party, has said that the CEO of Dassault is covering up for the Indian Prime Minister, is covering up for a deal which is not clean. And he said, in short, he just said, used the word liar. He accused you of being a liar.
Yes, I saw that, and I am a little bit sad to see, because we have also a long experience with the Congress party. The deal with the Mirage 2000 was at the time of the Congress party. Mrs. Gandhi, the first deal with India in 1953 was also with Nehru, and there are honorable prime ministers at that time, and we have been working with India. We are not working for a party. We are working and supplying strategic assets, strategic products like fighters to the government of India, to Indian forces, to Indian Air Force, and this is what is most important. I don't lie. The truth, everything I declared before, all the statements I made are the truth. I can confirm to you today, and I don't have the reputation to lie. And when you are in my position as a CEO, you don't lie.
Is that why the French media has not questioned the deal at all? Hardly anything has appeared in the French media?
No. Only, this controversy about what the President Hollande said, but the President said it was a misunderstanding, and he corrected what he said before, and the press media in France know us very well. We are supplying and supporting the strategic asset of our own French defense for a very long time, since Second World War, and even before, and we have a long and outstanding reputation. First, to design good aircraft, which I think is important when you are a country like France or when you are a country like India, supporting our products for a long time, the same team, the same people. We are engineers. I am myself an engineer, and what we want is a good deal, a good product to Indian Air Force.
So, you're telling me about the fantastic reputation that Dassault has. So, do you feel that this allegation of corruption made with regard to the Rafales which are going to India, is that going to tarnish the reputation of Dassault in any way? Is it going to hurt Dassault's reputation?
I don't think so. I think that number one is the deal. The deal is clean, so it is not because someone says something that it is the truth. The truth is what is the truth is. So we will see who can say what is the truth. But the truth is what I said. We about Reliance. We choose Ambani by ourselves. The Reliance Group, the Ambani family. We did it. We are also looking at other partners. We have already 30 partners which are not Reliance. So it's not only Reliance. We are more than happy to be the supplier of the Indian Air Force, and what you have been able to see today with the Rafale is the Indian Air Force is supporting the deal because they need this fighter in order for their own defense to be at the top.
So you said 30 partners that you've selected other than Reliance, and I think there are about 70 more in the pipeline or something.
Yes.
So how much is going in for your offset partner as Reliance? How much is going to the others? And the others, are they going to get it directly from Dassault or via DRAL?
No. Number one is we have about 7 years to perform our offset. During the first 3 years, we are not obliged to say with who we are working. Number three is we have already settled work and agreement with 30 companies, which represents about 40% of the total offset obligation we have by contract. Reliance is 10% out of this 40% already settled. And the 30 other % are not going through Reliance. It's direct agreement between Dassault and these companies.
Okay, you said you're not obliged to give the details for 3 years.
Yeah.
There's a report.
This is DPP 2013.
Yeah, so you've been, because you've been part of the negotiations since long. Now, is it true that in 2007, the RFP, the Indian Defence Ministry took full responsibility that the offset partners should be delivering to you the quality of the work that they will be delivering? But now, neither do you need to say what you're getting from the offset partners, nor is the Indian government going to stand guarantee. If, for example, you're buying something for the frame for Falcon, if you're buying that from Ambani or from Mahindra or any of the other offset partners, if they don't deliver, it's not the Indian government's responsibility.
No, but it will be my problem because I need to deliver my Falcon to my customers with the right quality standards, on time, at the right costing and this. So this is why the difference between the former discussion and the 36 is I take the full responsibility. I will deliver the 36 Rafale to Indian Air Force. It's my responsibility. I take whoever I want according to the rules of the DPP in order to fulfill my offset obligations. And in this offset obligation, it's not only the work on Rafale, it's the work on what is eligible at the title of the offset. So, for example, Falcon to be produced in India is okay for the offset.
Right. So, tell me, Mr. Trappier, isn't it more difficult for you now that you have to pick up an offset partner who has no experience at all, and he's going to be making Falcon for you, and the Indian government doesn't have to stand guarantee. So here's a loss-making company.
But this is life worldwide. If other big companies like Boeing or Airbus want to have their supply chain or their subcontractors to be in a country, they don't need to ask. They need to ask the permission in terms of rules of how to proceed in the country, which we did with India. We have the right permission to work and to do so. But this has nothing to do in a certain way with the deal. And then, because of the offset, we have the obligation to perform in India a certain quantity of work which should be eligible at the offset, which will be at the time of the 3 years and this and that. So, yes, we are mixing our own wish and will to invest in India, to be in India, to produce in India, with a contract which was signed about the 36 aircraft, government to government, with an offset contract, which I have to honor the commitment.
Right.
It's my responsibility to do so for the benefit of my company, but also for the benefit of the government of India, which will receive the 36 flyaway Rafale with the support, and at the same time will get some work in India.
Let's come to the pricing issue. Now, as per one report, Dassault 19.5 billion euros for 126 aircraft, the earlier deal, the MMRCA, averaging 155 million euros per aircraft. Tell me if I'm wrong anywhere. But in 2016, Indian government buys the same aircraft from you for 217 million per aircraft. That is 40% higher than the earlier MMRCA deal. Is this right or is this wrong?
We compare chicken and eggs. We compare something which not apple to apple. Number one was a contract with 126 aircraft, among them 18 to be produced in France, and then a progressive license with not only HL, but many companies around to be able to produce. So that is one part, with deliveries of jigs, and then labor. Then came the question at that time of how many hours to produce a Rafale by Indian companies compared to a Rafale produced in France and this and that. Then you have the cost of the labor on this. So this is one matter. Now 36, the price of the 36 was exactly the same compared with the 18 flyaway. You compare flyaway to flyaway. 36 is double than 18, so as far as I was concerned as Dassault, it should have been the double, including the price. 36 aircraft to compare with 18. But because it was a G2G government, there were some negotiation, and then I had to decrease the price of 9%. So the price of Rafale in flyaway condition is less expensive in the 36 contract than it was in the 126.
And when you talk about 9%...
You cannot divide like this, that doesn't mean anything.
Okay, if you're talking about 9% cheaper than the flyaway,
yes.
9% cheaper, is it the basic frame with non-weaponization, or with the weaponization it's 9% cheaper?
With no weapons. The weapons is a separate contract.
And are the weapons in 2017 in the new deal and the old deals different?
There are two separate contracts. One was in the previous discussion, separate from the 126, and still is separate of the 36 with a contract which was signed by MBDA.
So when it comes to loading, what is different in the loading of that aircraft and this aircraft? What is
the aircraft is the same. The flyaway aircraft is the same.
Okay. So, but what are the weapons that had to be done, this India-specific weapons? I understand that you cannot give me too much of the details as to what you put in out there, but is it really something that involves so much of secrecy? Because there are reports about, that there are missiles and there are radar warnings and there are helmet-mounted signals. All this is coming in?
Within the 18 or within the 36, you have all the equipment. You have the radar, you have everything, not the missiles. As I said, it's a separate contract, but you have everything. So you can compare apple to apple. The 18 you watch, which was part of the 126, and the 36 now. This is the same scope. So you can compare the price. Yes, everything was there.
So the radio altimeter, the Doppler radar, the cold start,
everything was there. So I cannot comment.
Why
I don't want to comment? Because I signed an agreement in which I am not in charge of dispatching this type of information. It's a responsibility of the government of India and the government of France. So I have to honor my commitment like I always do.
Does Dassault put all this weaponization into the aircraft before sending it to India, yes, or is it a third party?
No, yes. The weapons will be sent in a different contract, but the aircraft with everything, not with the weapons, will be dispatched by Dassault.
Who does the sale of that weapons? Do you do the sale of that?
No, it's MBDA. It's under the G2G also, but it's MBDA who is in charge behind the government of France.
And they supply the weapons to you, you load the aircraft?
They dispatch the weapon directly to the Indian Air Force. It has always been the case.
So you will send just the shell?
No, the shell with all the equipment on board the aircraft, the radar, the EW, the navigation system, all the system within a board. But the weapons, which has to be carried by the aircraft, is the responsibility of MBDA.
So this aircraft that we have seen, this was the same aircraft which was supposed to go in the earlier MMRC?
Yes, the same.
No change?
No.
But 9% cheaper, you're saying?
Yes.
Compared to the earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Now, critics of the deal in India say that now, because of the new deal, there is no transfer of technology. So the Indian aviation industry has suffered as a result of the new deal. Do you, as an aviation expert, not as Dassault, I'm not asking you now as a Dassault CEO, but do you think that an domestic aviation industry suffers when it's flyaway condition sale?
It's different deal. If you have 126 to be delivered under a license of manufacturing, it's different from what we are doing now.
But is it better?
It's better if you are wanting your fighters soon. So there is a matter of timing. Urgency and timing, because delivery of the flyaway condition, it's easy because you don't have the transfer of manufacturing of the Rafale. But while at the same time we are performing transfer of technology through what we are doing with the offset contract. We are trying in the offset contract to get training of the industry, to get transfer of manufacturing with the know-how, and you will be able maybe one day to visit in Nagpur, in Mehan, our facilities, for example, and you will see the workers who are Indians to manufacture part of the Falcon. And I think it's good to know how to manufacture a Falcon, because this is a global market. Civilian aircraft are global market, and you need to be able, if you want to develop the economy of the country, and India is such a big country that they need to develop also not only the domestic market but the global market. It's good to work with a Western company which will have no restriction to transfer a certain number of technologies in order to have a good partnership with Indian companies. And it will be true with our GV, it will be true also with our supply chain.
You withdrew from a Canadian bid because of issues which I believe, according to the media, is that there were problems of intelligence data sharing and interoperability, particularly with the US forces. You are a company which sells to several countries. Tell me, if you've sold these now to India, if you were to sell it to Pakistan or China, who are India's traditional rivals, how important is it that you keep the secrecy and that they don't get to know about the weaponization of the aircraft?
It's very easy to answer, because it's a government-to-government deal, number one. Number two is, even if it is a commercial deal, and when it is a commercial deal, we need the clearance of the French government. Between India and France, there is a strategic partnership. So within this strategic partnership, I don't want to comment, but there are a number of clauses which may allow to build up confidence in these very sensitive and strategic matters, which are defense or intelligence. So I think that this is a G2G agreement which cover these matters. As far as I am concerned, if you give a look on our track record, as I said, we started in 1953 with India. The fighters we sold to India are not in the countries you told me. So it's a fact. Like everything I may say are facts.
Well, what is the delivery time, sir? When are these aircraft going to come to India? And when are the squadrons going to be ready? What about the training, and what about the spares that come in? Because that also is an issue when it comes to, is India locked in with Dassault all the time for the spares now, because we're not going to be making them? So
no, not in this deal, but we are starting. Number one, to your question, is the first delivery to Indian Air Force is going to take place next year in September, so in 1 year, as per contract. It's totally in time. Number two is
2019.
2019, 2019.
The first lot will be delivered.
Yes, the first aircraft.
Okay.
Then, obviously, before we would have started the training of the pilots, the trainings of the mechanicians, which are going to take place here in France. And then we are going to train these pilots who will become the trainers for their own pilots in India. So the training facilities will be at the end with simulators in India by Indian Air Force pilots. Same with technicians and mechanicians. They will be trained first here in France, and then these first technicians and mechanicians will become the trainers of their own teams in India. So this will give the capability of Indian Air Force to train and their own teams for the future. As far as the spares are concerned, yes, the spares still are manufactured in France, like the aircraft, but it will depend on what's going on in the future also. If it is only for 36, it's difficult to manufacture spares because the quantity is not enough. If it is to manufacture more in the future, we will obviously be able to settle facilities in India. So that will be, we will see what is going to be the future.
So the first squadron is going to come in April 2019 is what I'm told. When do the rest of them come?
For the training, yes.
Yeah. So when do the rest of them, when are the complete 36 going to be
There
delivered?
is a big program.
Okay.
Which starts beginning of next year, but
the squadrons will be ready by which year?
I don't know. That's the Indian Air Force responsibility to create the squadron of Rafale in the base in India. There are 2 bases which are under fitting into a future Rafale base. So it's a responsibility of Indian Air Force to answer to that question. I may also only answer to what belongs to me, which is the training of the pilots and the mechanicians.
So how is your aircraft better than your competitors? If you were to compare it to the Eurofighter, how is it better compared to your competitors?
I would say that when you have
Why did you win the L1?
When you have a competition worldwide, Typhoon has never won against the Rafale, never. And it is known that the Rafale is a better aircraft. But what I may say is not good for you because obviously it's my bird, obviously it's my baby, so I will say it's the best. You need to ask the French pilots, you need to ask the Indian pilots because there was a very huge evaluation in flight in India, in different places in India, at the top of the mountains, in the desert, everywhere, by Indian teams. They made their evaluation. This evaluation led the Rafale to be the winner in 2012. So I think that those who may say whether it is a superb aircraft and a very operational aircraft are the pilots.
I'm going to come back to the pricing issue. In an earlier interview, you said that the price per aircraft after all the add-ons has been cheaper. Right now also you said this, that it's 9% cheaper. The Indian finance minister also suggested that if you just take the basic aircraft with the load-ons but not weaponization, it is cheaper. But you also seem to suggest that the earlier MMRCA deal would have been better for India, and you yourself said that you've had a good relationship working for HAL. If that was a better deal for India, how is this deal going to be in the long run good for the country and good for Dassault?
What does it mean, a better deal? It's not only pricing at the end, it's also timing, whether you can produce totally an aircraft within 3, 4, 5 years or 10 years. It's a parameter which has to be taken into account. So to deal with a contract like it was negotiated before with the 126, it took a long time. From 2007, the request, the decision to go ahead with the Rafale in 2012, and in 2015 no deal was settled. So this is why we were told that the urgency was that the government of India asked the government of France, can you do something quickly, because we cannot wait now. We have also a certain defense environment, protection of the country. We need the fighters in a very short time, and this is why they shift to the 36 according to what we were told at that time.
Mr. Trappier, you've worked and negotiated for almost 20 years on this now. You have worked on this deal, you have been negotiating with India for 20 years. Does this charge of bribery, corruption, lying, which has been done to Dassault and to you, Does that in any manner make you rethink about having dealt with India on this deal?
Not at all. You know, I have been working with India since 1990 and my company a long time before. I know that sometimes there are some controversies. I know that it's a kind of a domestic political fight with the election. It's true in many countries. What is important for me is the truth, and the truth is that it is a clean deal. The truth is that the Indian Air Force is happy with this deal and is very honored, as we are honored that the deal is going on. Our duty now is to deliver the program on time, which is the case for the time being. We believe that the cooperation started in 1953, continuation here in 2018, 2019 will continue also. So for me, I still continue to invest my company money in India in order to create jobs, in order to create relationship with this very important country for my company. So I hope, and I do hope, and I will work for that, to continue to deliver aircraft to India, to produce aircraft in India, maybe more than today, tomorrow, Falcon or Rafale. We are committed to India.
Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you.